Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Remember what Jesus said, goats on the left, sheep on the right. And to Peter he said, if you want to catch fish, do it from the right side of the boat. And they did, and they filled the boat. That's the origin of left and right. I've often wondered why it is that conservatives are called the right and liberals are called the left. And by chance, thanks to this paper that was sent to me, I stumbled upon this verse in the Bible that says, the heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Enough said. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. On a Wednesday. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. I love my pillow from Lee's. I really do, that memory foam pillow. And, of course, our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Start on the route service today. Give them a call, 734-6969. Never can enough credit be given to Gina for all of her organizational skills and kind of mapping out everything to make sure that yours truly, if he's not going to be there or is there, everything's on the air and everything. This is not a one-horse operation, nor can it be. I would really hate to see somebody try to come in and run this thing all by themselves, and Gina is absolutely not replaceable. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Swells my heart.
Well, it's the truth, you know. I mean, people don't realize that by the time you get somebody on the air, you have a misdial, and you got to call somebody else. You can't be doing other things and then try to do that at the same time.
I've sat back and thought about all of the logistics that would take for me, like if I had to run your show all by myself. Yeah. It would actually take a lot.
Well, not only that, but the quality of the show actually would go down.
Actually, I think it would. Yeah. It's this particular show, you need 2 people. You really, really do.
Yep. And how are you this morning?
I am doing well, and your opening comments about the left and the right and that particular verse makes you ponder.
Yes, it does, and we're going to talk about that more a little bit later on. Now, I talk to Gina every morning before I get on the air. Excuse me, we kind of go over how things are going and everything. Now, yesterday, it was kind of a long morning with the medication and sitting in the chair for 3 hours, and yours truly actually wanted to push his wheelchair by himself over the bridge, and so if things get a little bit tight today, I might, because of doctor's orders, have to cut the program a little short, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, you just let me know.
Do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Michael Rogers on for the pledge and for the weather.
Oh, very good. Thanks, Gina. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Michael. Good morning.
Morning, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Not a bad day in the Magic Valley all the way through the week until Monday of next week. You're going to see a lot of sun, very little clouds. Temperature is going to be in the mid to upper 40s. Overnight lows will be in the mid to upper 30s. It's going to be kind of mild all the way through. If you're heading up to Seattletown to see that football game, cloudy 52, and you get to Century Lake Field. Other than that, pretty easy weather for the remainder of the week. Enjoy it. It is the only weather you got.
All right, Michael, pay attention to this, please. Try to call me later this afternoon if you can, about my time, 4 o'clock if you can. It's very important. I need to share something with you.
I will call you if you don't push yourself off the bridge.
I'll try not to, without a parachute. Thanks, Michael. God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you. Oh, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Okay, now let's go through here real quick. Valley-wide Home and Ranch. Don't forget they've got every... You know, you need shavings for your stalls. You need shavings like for your horse trailers and everything. I'll tell you what, they've got all your shavings, all your pine shavings for the horse trailers and the stalls over there. They got the Smart Lick tubs and the Cattle Lick blocks, and they've got, let's see what... Oh, the horse blankets and the tacks. Oh, my goodness, some of which are on sale right now. And they've got hot lunch over there at lunchtime and soup, and they've got ice melt. They've got it all for you at Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida and Rupert. Stop in and say hello to those good folks today. Really, really nice people at Valley-wide Home and Ranch. I have a question for you folks out there in the audience, and you know, some of us are getting a little gray in the sideboards of the head, and I'm gray all over, and some of us are getting a little long in the lobes, but do you ever remember a president or an administration that so blatantly has come right out and said, with the power of my pen or the power of my phone, I will go around Congress and I will get things done. I will get things done the way I want them. That's dictatorial. That's nothing more than a Hugo Chavez or a Fidel Castro. That is nothing more than a one-man band taking over a country that absolutely says the first three words of our Constitution, we the people. Are you as scared about this as I am? I listened and watched this man's body language when he sat there and had that little 39-cent pen in his hand, and he said, with the power of my pen and the power of my phone, I will get things done basically the way he wants them done with his ideology. His executive orders, his mandates. I have talked to many people back east. Yesterday after the program, I admittedly just didn't do a whole lot as far as calling back east to some folks. Talked to some this morning. They are petrified as to what this man might do for the remainder of his term in office. He's got 3 years. And look out. Or are you not worried? I'd like to really take a poll this morning. I really would. About those of you that think that maybe, I'm just all worried about nothing. Or those that agree with me, that right now we're on the verge of a dictatorial leadership in this country more so than ever before. And I heard your mic on.
Well, I was going to comment about all of the executive orders that this man has signed. And my brother and I, we actually kind of did a little bit of research as to what types of executive orders he's signed. And boy, howdy. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid, because he is going around Congress. He is overriding prior executive orders. This man, he's doing things without the consent of we, the people.
He absolutely has a complete disdain, and maybe you won't agree with this, maybe the listeners won't agree with this, but I honestly think he has a complete disdain for the way the government should and could and is supposed to be run with the three different branches. I think the only branch that matters to him is his, and he is absolutely under the assumption that I will do it my way, no one will get in my way, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's very scary, and of course, hopefully the Supreme Court will override all of his appointments that he's done without the approval of the Senate. Hopefully that then this will bring forth more of an examination of everything and all of the executive orders that he has signed. Now, every president has signed executive orders.
Absolutely.
But this man has signed more than any other president in our history. And just let me tell this to the people, if you go on to Snopes, don't believe what Snopes has out anymore, because honestly, Snopes says that Obama has actually signed less and that Theodore Roosevelt signed more.
Yeah.
No, that is not fact.
But, when you start talking about history and presidents and those that were leaning to the left, a lot of people, I would come up with one name, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, leaned to the left, from his political viewpoints. But I don't think that anyone can tell me that I'm wrong on this, that no president ever in the history of the United States has been so blatantly open and very, if you don't like it, that's the way it's going to be attitude. Here's my pen, and I have a phone, and I'm going to do it my way.
It seems like he's very hateful of the American public, and not I'm all of the American public, but specifically those who are actually the voting public. And he does not want us to participate. He's trying to ixnay on everything that we say, hey, you know what? No, we don't want that. Well, he's like, I don't care. I'm just going to write it in an executive order, and so you have no choice.
Well, and it's the personality of the party right now, the Democrats.
Yes.
I got a nasty letter from a Democrat that didn't like me, which I can't imagine that they would send that. But the facts are in the pudding. When you watched the other day and Nancy Pelosi got up to the podium, I don't know if you caught this newscast or not, but it was at a newscast where some of the news media was asking Nancy questions, and they asked her about the failed implementation of Obamacare. And she shot back at them, well, certainly you're not keeping up to speed as a journalist because it's not called Obamacare, it's called the Affordable Care Act. How many times, Gina, when you were doing the news and you were with another outfit while this thing was in its inception, was it called, because that's the way they wanted it called after the president, Obamacare?
It was always termed as Obamacare. We would always, side-script it as the Affordable Health Care Act, but it was always coined Obamacare because that was supposed to be his signature implementation of his presidency. And it is an incredible failure, and from my own personal experience, it's failed.
Well, that brings to mind a question. I don't want you to give too much of your own personal information or anything, naturally, but you and my wife both lost policies over this.
Well, here's the deal with me. I started this process back on October 9th of 2013 because I knew, we are mandated to do this. So, I'm going to pony up and I will do this. It is now January 15th, 2014.
Right.
I still cannot get verified by Experian, who is supposed to be the entity that verifies everybody to, you are who you say you are. They can't verify me. But Experian has all of my credit history. There are 3 different entities that have their hands in this pot. You've got your credit reporting agency, i.e. Experian. You've got the website carrier, and then you have the Department of Health and Welfare.
Absolutely.
And there's too many hands in the pot. And for me, October 9th, it is now January 15th of the next year.
Well, 3 months.
Yeah, I still can't get verified. And I've had our own Senator Dean Cameron, who this is his thing. He does insurance. He can't even get me verified.
Well, and the terrible thing that my wife and I noticed down at Salt Lake University Hospital, they deal with people all over the world. And I'm not going to mention names. I could in a private conversation, I could give names and numbers to prove what I'm saying in case someone has any doubt. Not one time, not one single person did I run into at University Hospital that was in charge of any department or in charge of anything as far as pre-surgery, the books that had to be taken care of, you're departing the hospital, your all the paperwork and everything. I asked questions of every single person, and they absolutely, to a person, said this was the worst thing that ever happened to healthcare in this country, and they damned Obama.
Yeah. I completely agree. I am not going to say that, our healthcare system does need an overhaul, but not this way. This is the complete backwards way of doing a healthcare
Well, you didn't
overhaul.
fix anything when you take some people that are happy with their policies and put them out in the cold and make them suffer just to give a smaller number of people policies they've never had before.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can keep your health care policy if you like it. Oh, you can keep your doctor if you like it. But no, in reality, folks, you can't. He lied. He lied through his teeth.
And here's something else, too, for senior citizens out there, and I'm living proof of this. Do not, if you've got surgery that has to be taken care of, take care of surgery. Take care of your medical advances for yourself and make sure you're very, very direct and upfront. You have got to be your own biggest protector right now because, honestly, the senior set in our country is going to be the least cared for in the future. You've got to protect yourself as much as you can.
Agreed, because the way they're writing these policies, it's not for the benefit of the elderly, and these are the people who built our country, who paid into the system, as it were, for their entire lives.
Yeah,
but yet they can't benefit out of it.
And one of the ladies that we were talking to down in Salt Lake City, she was in the pre-register, for the surgery to get all your blood work and everything all lined up, and she did all the paperwork and everything. We were talking about young people getting involved in this, and she was relating her sons at the college level. They're not touching this puppy with a 10-foot pole.
No, my daughter, who's 21, she is highly against it.
Yeah.
Highly against it. And honestly, I kind of say this with pride that she's getting more political as a 21-year-old. She's starting to see where this country is headed, and she is not happy. And this is a 21-year-old girl. She's not happy with the way this country is headed.
But, the problem is, it's great to sit there and say as a proud parent, boy, I'm sure glad that my son and or daughter is starting to see the forest because there was a tree in their way before. Mm-hmm. But that's not good for any of us. No. That's not good for any of us because of what's going on in this country with a complete lack of leadership and a complete disdain for we the people.
And this is my question, and it's kind of a rhetorical question, and maybe we could ask Scott Bedke when we get him on later on this during the show. What are we supposed to do? I mean, we have said, no, we don't want this. We've said, hey, this isn't working for me. Can we, stop the bus? Can we, have a complete revamp of this whole system before it is implemented? They're not listening.
No.
So what can we, as we the people, what can we do?
If you would have told the general public a year ago, okay, that many people that are happy with their insurance programs are going to lose them. They're going to take them away, they're going to trash them and discard them, and some of you will probably have hell to pay trying to find another policy. There are some of you that will just give you a policy, we're going to give you subsidization and everything for that policy, and it's going to fall on the backs of the other premium payers in our society. I mean, this whole thing would have been looked at with complete disdain, and I think the general public would have said, how long would it take you to fall off the end of the pier in the ocean?
I know. Asking for all of our personal information first before we even get signed up.
Oh, my gosh.
That's wrong.
Absolutely.
Really?
I got to pay some bills.
Please do.
Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Don't forget heat lamps, extension cords. I spend most of my life plugging in things to extension cords. Here an extension cord, there an extension cord. And, of course, they've got all your air filters for your furnaces. They've got everything you need. So be sure and stop in there for all your electrical needs at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they always provide warm winters and cool summers. At Ramsey Heating and Electric, you stop in and see those good folks today. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And while I have just a time here, I'm trying to find I really got to tell you about our new sponsor, our new advertiser on our program, which is going to involve you at Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Yes, it's Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Now, before I went into the hospital, Deanna and I just kind of went in there unannounced, and we sat down, and the service was fantastic. Not one girl, two girl, but three girls. I mean, everything okay? How's your food? Need some more coffee? Everything fine? Oh, my goodness, I was very happy with that. And the menu was very, very tasty. And I'll tell you what, for the last 60 years, Denny's has been serving up your favorite dinner classics as well as delicious, fun new menu items. They've got them all. Denny's Restaurant. And it is the home of our new Zeb's Lunch Bunch. I am going to try to recoup, and we'll set the date here in the next couple of days towards the end of this month, and we'll be all set to go. I know we're running short on time, but I'll get it put together as soon as I find out how good my old knee's going to be to get around, okay? But that's Denny's Restaurant. You stop in 611 North Overland in Burley. Okay, it's time for some calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There's a lady in the audience, and I wish that we all could have her personality. I wish we could all have the smile in her voice. I wish we could all have that little chuckle, that friendly little chuckle. And I've never been around anyone so cheery in my life. She just lifts my spirits every time I talk to her, and that's the wonderful Rosa Goff. Rosa, if you're listening out there this morning, you are a very special person, and I just want to say thank you. I mean, she called me before my surgery and wished me well, and she's just one of those kind of people that now you take care, and she's chuckling and laughing and everything. She takes life with a smile every day, and I just say God bless her. Rosa Goff, way to go. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. You said you was inflated. Well, I'm going to deflate you. Just kidding. Just kidding.
You know, I'm on medication. I'm on a special deal to keep my leg from hurting with ice. And you sit there and you give me problems. Don't you raise my blood pressure.
Well, I'll try not to. I was just going to say, you know, all them waitresses over there at Denny's now are used to be at JB's.
Yep, and nice girls.
And that's why it's such fabulous service.
Nice girls.
So
very nice girls. And they can even serve you and put a smile on your face.
Yep. Well, how you doing?
I'm a little stiff. You know, they said that about 6-7 days after the surgery, that's when you're really going to start looking and feeling ugly, and I did.
Okay, maybe I can come down there one of these times and take you for a run.
Now that's got to be the worst choice of words I've ever heard in my life. Take me for a run.
Get you off your hind end.
Well, I did get in the pickup last night again, and Deanne had to go to town, and I went to town with her.
There you go.
What?
Just doing everything doctor says not. You do.
He didn't specifically say that. I asked him if I could drive. And he told me I had to stay out of my pickup. But he didn't say that I couldn't sit on the passenger side.
Well, you you do everything the doc says don't. I know you never.
Well, he had to parse his words a little better than what he did.
I know somebody mentioned the other day, I was talking to him, and said, well, is he going to get one of them mobile chairs? And I said, I hope he don't. I said, he's got enough with them other things.
You know, and you're the second person that has called and given me static about that. I had honestly thought about getting one of those chairs so I could cruise around outside and check on the horses and everything. And there's another member in my neighborhood gathering here that has made reference to the point that, no, because the canyon rim is too close, it's only a mile away and I might tip over it. You know, a lot of people are questioning whether or not I should have one of those. And I'd like to have one.
Okay, well, Deanne, take out extra insurance.
That put a smile on her face.
Yeah. Have a good one, Jeff.
Take care, Al. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't forget Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hebron with my buddy Jim McCall. Boy, I tell you, old Jim is there. He's always there when you need him. He's a good old boy. That's right. Pink Bubba ropes. And, they've got the preseason orders right now on all the oil filters for all your vehicles. Get your vehicle list into Jim McCall right now today, 438-8730. That number again, 438-8730. They deliver the goods. They're really, really nice people. Travel Loop Supply. Call them today. All right, now it is time for the Pacific Steel and Recycling Ag Minute. And Pacific Steel and Recycling, with 2 locations serving you, 320 West Main in Burley and 1987 Highland Avenue East in Twin Falls. Here is the Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Rules proposed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency would greatly expand the agency's regulatory reach, potentially requiring water pollution permits for farming activity near ditches or across areas of pooled water that might seep into streams. Don Parrish, Senior Director of Congressional Relations for the American Farm Bureau Federation, says the EPA draft rules greatly expand the agency's regulatory authority. The agency backpedaled after a draft was leaked and insisted that farm ditches are exempt.
but Parrish and others familiar with the rule have doubts. They say spraying pesticides or fertilizers may require a Clean Water Act or permit. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Brous.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
There you go. Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, and 1987 Highland Avenue East in Twin Falls. For all your recycling needs, take your groups in there, your Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H programs. Learn all about recycling at Pacific Steel and Recycling. Mighty fine folks. All right, come on, it's your turn. 436-2244-1866-927-4587. Gina, guess what? I've got another subject I'd kind of like to pick your brain on a little bit, and I am of the older generation. I am of the gray-haired, wrinkly set. And you are, of course, young and full of gusto and everything. But I wonder how far apart we are on this issue. Okay. I was adamantly opposed to having Colorado, Frosty Woolridge and Doug Johnson State, approve the legality of marijuana.
Okay.
Very much opposed to it. Because not so much of the product, but because of the outreach that it would have on the communities, the outreach that it would have on children, the outreach that it would have on athletics, the outreach that it would have on driving, the outreach that it would have on cases that had been arrested and had not yet gone to court that had cost the states millions of dollars. Do you agree that this just opened up a Pandora's box that now that it's open, I don't see how we can ever keep it solved?
It did open up a Pandora's box. Hopefully the state of Colorado and, of course, Washington. Here's kind of the funny thing is that, it's legal in Washington. It's legal in Colorado. Idaho is the joining state. We're going to be seeing a lot more drug busts here in Idaho because of this.
Right.
I really do hope that Colorado and Washington, and this is just my own personal opinion, I do hope that they're going to help out with all of the legal bills that this is going to come to the state of Idaho.
What's it going to do, though, Gina, to athletics? And let's start at high school athletics. Let's go to whether it's the University of Colorado or Colorado State or any teams that visit. Okay. Let's say that you've got University of Idaho goes over to play Colorado State. And they buy marijuana, which is legal in there, and all of a sudden the boy comes home from the football game, and he goes back up to Moscow, and there he is, bingo, gets arrested and off the team. It was all right there, but it's not right there.
Let's see here. If it was a University of Idaho player that went over to play like Colorado State or whatever, and he partook in this particular legal activity in Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, it's not legal here, so he still has to abide by the laws of the University of Idaho.
I agree with you. But you've got to have some uniformity on drug laws or pros and cons and yeses and nos in any society. You can't just have a helter-skelter approach, and that's what this is turning into.
I agree with that. Either legalize it across the board or don't across the board, because you're going to have a lot of confusion within the states, and it's going to affect a lot of the states and the policies.
And what about driving? That's a question I've got. What about driving while impaired, DWI or DUI? I mean, if you go into a bar and you have, let's say, 3 shots, and you get behind the wheel and you waver a little bit and they're going to give you a DUI, okay?
Okay.
What happens if you're at one of these cannabis bars and you get kind of, hey, man, ain't life beautiful? Aren't you impairing your driving to the point where...
Yes, you are.
Okay.
It would still be. It should still be considered driving under the influence, because technically you are. Your reaction time is a little bit slower.
But do we have the advanced stages of study and the mechanizations available to us to do the actual recording in the field sobriety as far as field sobriety tests are concerned?
The studies are already out there. Honestly, the studies are already out there, which do say that, marijuana does kind of slow down your reaction time. Now, I am in favor of medical marijuana. My mom suffers from, chronic pain and fibromyalgia. For specific cases like that, okay, but do it behind closed doors. Don't get out there and drive, because it is going to impair
I can't argue that.
ability.
I cannot argue that. I agree with you 100%. But the way that it's set up, there's been an abuse of the privilege of the medical marijuana to the point where it's almost a farce.
I agree with that. And you've got a phone call. She's been waiting for a while.
All right, Gina, thanks. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning,
Yes, sir.
This is Lyndon.
Yes, sir.
You heard the latest news on the Benghazi?
I've heard quite a bit over the last 24 hours as far as how much our president knew literally minutes after the alleged attack. So what are you going to share with me this morning?
Well, I guess that's about it. But they knew exactly what was taking place the minute it happened. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a treasonous act. I think they all should be charged with treason.
Well, let me ask you this. I think that there should be a full-blown investigation against Obama, because what he did, the bottom line as to why he did this and why it was covered up, is that he was in the middle of his potential re-election for President of the United States, and Barack Hussein Obama was not going to do one thing or let one thing go that would hurt and inhibit and prohibit him from being a dictator once again to this country.
That's exactly right, but that's why it should be treason.
I agree. I find nothing respectful about this man, his administration. I will not respect this man and his administration, because little by little, whether it's something to do with Hillary in Benghazi, whether it has to do with the president in Benghazi, whether it has to do with the IRS scandal, whether it has to do with any other scandal he's been involved in, I absolutely abhor this man and his administration.
I feel the same.
All right, sir.
The day after that happened, that General Jack got on TV, and he said, you can bet your life that the president, Hillary, and that other big general, his name Petraeus or whatever it was.
Petraeus, yes.
When they resigned.
Yeah.
He said, you can bet your life they were all watching it happen on live TV in that room they have in the White House.
Yep. No, I just hope and pray, and I mean this, I hope and pray that justice is going to be prevailed upon the American public, and Obama will get everything he has coming to him as being one of the worst leaders that's ever sat in the Oval Office.
Amen.
All right, sir. God bless you. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You betcha, sir. Gina, that brings to mind, there is so much still out there about Obama and these what he called phony scandals. The other day, while laying in the hospital bed, I think it was last week Thursday, we were looking at kind of a reporting of all the different scandals, whether it was Fast and Furious. We were looking and listening to the IRS. We were looking to the James Rosen scandal. We were looking to the Benghazi scandal and everything. And, of course, Obama flippantly saying, well, these are all phony scandals put together by the Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. This man is having everything come back to roost in the trees, and they're not little darling little doves. These are vultures that are roosting in his trees right now, because I think the truth is going to come out. This man is going to try to do as much as he can to get his ideology through, because he may be through as a president.
I think that he should be, and honestly, how do we get him impeached? How can we bring him up on charges of treason? Benghazi incident, that is, the shining light, of course, as to what this man is all about. And as an American, as the American public, how can we push that forward? Because he is not for the American public. He's out there for himself.
When you say, how can we? We, the American people, are represented by our senators and our congressmen. And I've honestly said this many times on my program. It's true. I think that Congress and the Senate are comprised of a bunch of milquetoast wussies.
Yes. That
absolutely, if you walked in the door and sat down behind them and yelled, "Brrr!" they'd all crawl under their desk, because they're a bunch of cowards. And if there's anybody offended by that, that's fine. I don't care, because I think most all of them are cowards to the point where they won't stand up for the American people, but they will bend like a willow in the wind as long as their job is protected.
It's that, and money is flaunted in their face.
There you go.
That's honestly what I think, and I am highly disappointed with the way our Congress is not bringing up these issues.
Yep.
These issues need to be brought forth, and as there are so many other news stories out there. I think that the White House and the media at large is focusing on, instead of, as look at the shiny over here. Oh, don't pay attention to Benghazi.
Yeah.
Don't pay attention to the IRS scandal. But look at this over here. We're going to make Miley Cyrus. She's going to be the big news story this week, so we can divert the American public's attention off of what really needs to be talked about.
Well, there's just so much that they being the government, don't want us to discuss or have it discussed about them. And the New York Times with this cover-up. And by the way, that 6-part story in the New York Times is going to come back, and I honestly will stand behind my statement here. I think that will absolutely be the downfall of one of America's oldest newspapers as far as having any credibility whatsoever. That 6-part story saying that it had everything to do with, of course, the video, the anti-Muslim video, which it didn't, and now all these bits and pieces coming out about the general and Obama, and those are the 3 that knew 15 minutes after the attack started that it was a organized terrorist attack led by Al-Qaeda representatives, and our president lied to us primarily because he was on the campaign trail, and it was not meant to diminish his re-election.
When it comes to our American troops and our American ambassadors in any other country, it is our duty as, we've got to go in there and we've got to save them. So if they knew while it was happening what was going to go on, why did they fabricate all of these lies to get us, the American people, they really don't need to know all of the facts. So this is what we're going to say. This is how we're going to spin the story. And honestly, it's coming back around to bite them in the rear, and I hope it takes a chunk out.
I just wonder, though, people that are your friends, your age bracket, are they asking the questions? I can honestly say, pardon me?
Some are and some aren't.
But is there apathy? Is there a point of saying, that's old news, who cares? What really is the feeling?
I think some of it is apathy. Some are outraged. My brother and I were outraged about this, but some of it, they're like, it has nothing to do with my day-to-day life, so I'm really not going to worry about it. But, honestly, in the big picture, it really does have to do with our day-to-day life. We do need to worry about these things because this is going to affect not only our generation, but all of the subsequent generations that are going to have to pick up the pieces after we're gone.
Absolutely.
You've got a phone call.
Tell you what, we'll take the weather after the phone call. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to stop these kind of attacks is every time they hit us with even something minor, we're going to have to present these people with a devastating attack somewhere in their part of the world. And that's the only thing that's going to happen. Otherwise, these people are going to take us apart piece by piece.
Yeah, but Tony, we don't fight anymore.
I know that. But pretty soon there isn't going to be a way for us to fight, because with this younger generation we have coming in now, gets so totally brainwashed by this Obama administration, and it's going to be easy for the enemy to come in and take us over in the next 10 or 15 years.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be less than that, to be honest with you. I think we're looking at a very short-term problem as to where these people are going to come in and they're going to take things over. But, Tony, we do not fight anymore. We don't stand up for ourselves anymore. We do not, and some people are going to say, well, that's a pugilistic attitude. You can't run the world by always wanting to fight. No, but you earn respect. This country has lost its respect, Tony.
Well, if it wasn't for a strong military that we had in the past, this country would have been taken over many years ago, and these kids that we've got coming up now would be living under a dictatorship, and they'd have no way of finding out what it is to live in a free country.
I agree. I agree, and I'm just absolutely worried about what Obama is going to do. I will not refer to him as President Obama. I'm going to refer to him as Obama because of his pen and because of his phone and because of his dictatorial position on skirting Congress and doing things his way. The man scares me to death.
Well, anything with the name Obama on it is doomed to failure.
I hope you're right.
Yes, sir. I hope so.
All right. Hey, God bless you and Mary. Thank you much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. God bless. It's time for a weather update. And weather this hour is brought to you by our dear friends at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Don't forget, if you're in a quandary as to whether to get Dish TV or Direct TV, why don't you go in and talk to the pros? And that's, of course, the great, great folks right there at Quality's Electronics. I'll tell you what, they are absolutely the best, and they give you all the answers, the pros, the cons, the best, the better, and the good, all of everything at right there at Quality's Electronics. Check it out today, and their number to call, 733-4910, or stop in at 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls, Quality's Electronics. Here now is Michael with the weather.
Hello, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. It's South Central Idaho. It's nice and sunny. It's going to remain that way as far as the weather is concerned. Not a bad day, not a bad week in the east. A lot of sun, very little clouds all the way through Monday of next week, but temperatures in the upper 40s for the daytime highs. And right around the mid to upper 30s for the overnight lows. So it looks like a pretty good winter going into the weekend. There you go. Enjoy the weather. The only weather we got.
All right, Michael. Thank you very much. Brought to you by our dear friends at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Oh, please give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The therapists have given me quite a wide array of exercises that I have to do with this leg, and you're supposed to do them like 4 or 5 different times a day. And yesterday, seriously, this is a true story. Yesterday, I got off the air at 11 o'clock, and at 11:03, was passed out in my geezer chair.
You were tired by the time the show was done.
I wasn't tired. I was flat whipped. I mean, I was worn out. And Deanne, we got a system. See, I get up on my geezer walker, okay, and I get my big fat butt around the corner of this desk, and then I park myself inside the wheelchair. And then Deanne has a straight shot down the hallway to my living room where the geezer chair is. And then I get out of the geezer chair, and I just put myself, it took exactly 2 minutes, and on minute number 3, I was out of it, man. I never woke up till yesterday afternoon.
Well, I had emailed her last night, kind of wondering what we were going to be doing today. And then she emails me this morning. She's like, it's 6:13. I'm trying to get him out of his geezer chair. I will let you know. and then I get another email. It is 7:40. I'm still trying to get him out of his geezer chair. I will let you know.
A man has to set his priorities there, lady.
Hey, you know what? Right now, sleep and recovery is a priority. Now, here's my question. What kind of exercises do they have you doing? Do you have to bend your leg, leg lift?
Yes.
Do you have to put a little bit of weight on it?
Yes. Yes. All of the above. And there's
and
one.
When you're getting up, are you using your crutches and everything, and then just slowly putting weight on?
Use my crutches to get up out of a chair, and then they don't want me using my crutches to walk with. They want me to use a walker for a while until my balance comes back, and then I park myself in that wheelchair. Now, nothing against Deanne and her driving abilities, but once she's a little gal. I mean, she's not a big, heavy gal.
No, she's not. She's actually tinier than I am. And
when she gets that wheelchair going, I mean, you got to go with the flow. Now, far be it if my toes happen to be in the way of a door jamb or anything. You've got to go with the flow.
I think maybe we need to get her some heavy shoes with brake pads on them.
And her attitude is such that I said yesterday, "Oh, my toes!" And she said, "Stop complaining. We're making headway."
See, that's what I love about Dan. She's just like, "Shut up, you old geezer. We're doing it my way."
But you should have been here yesterday when my lovely bride wanted to back down the ramp.
Oh, was she going to back down the ramp?
Well, we're lucky we still have her. We really do. What happened was the law of gravity, weight, and momentum all played a major part in where Deanne almost was turned into a human speed bump.
So basically, she almost went underneath the wheelchair.
You know the old westerns where the guy's running along in the stagecoach and he jumps off and he's being dragged underneath the carriage of the stagecoach? Picture Deanne underneath the wheelchair, going down the ramp, screaming and cursing at the top of her voice. It was an ugly sight.
Deanne, I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the moment.
And I'm sitting in the wheelchair, and you put your arms down, towards the wheels, but it's not wide enough. I can't get my arms in there. So I yelled out something encouraging, and I said, "Hang on, we're almost at the bottom." And she took great offense at that.
And she's like, because you have the power to, don't you have a brake on that?
I can't get my hand down there. That's how close it is on our ramp. And I couldn't.
Put your leather gloves on, your leather work gloves, and then grab those wheels and stop it.
Well, it was really disconcerting to me because where my feet come up and you put them on the wheelchair? And I saw her Nikes right next to mine, and I thought, that doesn't look natural.
You know what I think I'm going to play is the outro song?
What's that?
You've lost that lovin' feeling.
It's working on it. I got to hand it to you, though. All I saw on the handles was her hands, her cold, clammy, white hands, and I could hear this voice coming from underneath my seating area like, "Help!"
Oh, poor Deanne. Did she come out all scraped and bruised?
Actually, she came out pretty good, but we got to figure out another method. She's not big enough to, it's like it's like parking a Volkswagen in the road trying to stop a Mack truck. She can't do that.
Well, and here's the thing, because I've been to your house, and so that ramp that you guys have is kind of rather steep. So maybe what she should do is take you out the back door and let you just kind of go blump, 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 blump down onto your patio.
I know. Well, yeah, we could do that. This was more fun, however.
Oh, I'm sure it was for you, but I'm sure Deanne didn't quite find it so funny.
No, she's doing 100, though. She is just doing 100. I got to hand it to her. Everybody, send Deanne a card and just give her well wishes about how tough she is and hope she makes it through this ordeal.
You've got a phone call.
Okay, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Deanne needs to do a block and tackle on you coming down there. That'd probably be the best thing.
You mean winch me down?
Yes. Yeah.
Like they did in the old days when they put people across the river?
Yep, something like that.
That's a good idea.
You have to get a big one, though, do a double loop on it. So.
Well, I can imagine, that had to be a little disconcerting for her because, boy, the speed was building up and the smoke from the tires was coming up and everything, and she's going, "Help!"
Deb, I want to thank you for the laughs this morning. I mean, just priceless. It was great listening to this story.
Well, and the reason that I had to resort to humor this morning is because I'm hurting so doggone bad, I was afraid I'd start to cry. Oh, thanks, Doug.
Well, remember these moments because they can be something you can tell your grandkids. And put a video cam out there or something so we can put it on YouTube. I mean, you go bonkers.
No,
I'm for that idea.
Doug, there's another way to look at that. It would be nothing more than have as proof and evidence in the court when the divorce comes up.
Well, other than that, we just make some money off of YouTube, maybe.
Okay, buddy. Hey, thanks for your call. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Doing better.
All right, buddy. Hey, nice guy right there. Really appreciate him. Let's see. What have we got here? Well, we got to tell everybody about our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. 7 locations serving you with the best in tires. 7 locations serving you with the best in brake service. 7 locations serving you with the best in shocks and struts, front end alignments, tire chains, batteries, and everything. They serve you. They take care of you. All 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, Randy on Overland and Burley. Oh my, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I've had lots of experiences that way. I've got ropes that I hang on to when I go down backwards.
That's a good idea.
And I can kind of assist.
That's a good idea.
It works.
I think the only
nothing will ever be the best.
The only rope
it
that
works.
The only rope
lives. It saves people getting run over, and it saves me going backwards clear across the road up the hill.
There you go. I'm going to try that. I'm going to go get some rope and implement that. And I bet you $100 bill. I know what Deanne would say. We should put the noose around my neck.
Probably.
Okay.
I know my wife probably felt the same way, but we had to find a way of getting out of the door. We had to go to the doctor. We had to go to the store. We had to do a lot of stuff, and that solved my problem.
All right, Jerry, I got one more call. God bless you. Good to hear from you, my friend. Thank you.
You bet.
All right.
Lord bless. Keep on keeping on.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Call it quickly. I've got a minute left.
Yeah, Zeb, I feel sorry for Deanne.
Well, thank you, Fred.
Well, I do. Maybe.
Well,
but that isn't what I called you about. I listened to a gate from him, it'd be last night, Secretary of Defense.
Yes.
The former Secretary of Defense.
Yes.
And he allowed us how Obama wouldn't listen to the generals and the military men. He didn't like the military men. He also said that the Congress, the House and the Senate, was worried more about getting reelected than they were about our country.
Absolutely.
I believe.
Absolutely.
But it was real interesting. He don't like Obama. Now, there's no question about that.
I wish...
Of course, he served some time under Bush, too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting.
I'll tell you what, Fred, I've got to run to the news, but I'm going to comment on that a little bit later on this morning. Excellent thought. And by the way, to you and Joyce, thanks for all your great remarks. Thank you. Appreciate you. Dear God.
We're going to come and see you today if it's all right.
All right. I should be here unless she doesn't let me get out of the wheelchair alive.
Don't run over.
Okay, see you later, Fred. Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right. Got to run to the news. Boy, that's an oxymoron. I'll be back in 6. Welcome back. Hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch on a Wednesday. My goodness sakes, good morning, good morning. And my lovely bride trying to get my leg all straightened around with new ice packs and everything. Oh, we're just as efficient as can be here this morning. And we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, along with I Love My Pillow from Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland and Burley. I love that pillow. Boy, they got the memory foam pillows. And don't forget, too, your friends and my friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, hello Kelly, hello everybody over at Western Waste, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage. All you have to do is call, say 734-6969. Get my garbage, and they'll be there with the big trucks, and it's gone. It's out of there. You better believe it. They are the best, and they've got all the dumpsters in various sizes, the porta potties. They've got them all. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You call them today. Also, real fast, I want to remind you folks about some dear, dear friends, and that's, of course, our folks over at Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward and the staff, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness sakes. Joel absolutely has the best personality. I mean, he's always smiling, always there to help people, along with the rest of the staff, upholding the highest of ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please, they believe that every life is worth remembering, and they want to treat you the way you want to be served. So call them today at 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Whew. Wow. I stood up during the break. You know, that's part of my deal. They say you got to stand up every hour, and you got to take a few steps here, and you got to take a few steps there, and then sit down, and then get your ice bags back on your knees again and everything. And so I got that done, and now with all the ice making me feel like I'm a penguin at Antarctica, here now is a guy that I haven't had a chance to talk to for a couple of weeks, but boy, it's good to have him back on the program. Good morning, Doug Johnson. How are you?
Well, I'm good, Zeb, but I think what's better is hearing you. You sound like you're doing great. You sound strong and ornery and all those good things.
It's the drugs.
Whatever works, right?
Woo! Boy, I'll tell you what, they put you on stuff to make you feel better. They put you on stuff to bring you down. They put you on stuff to bring you back up again, and pretty soon it's kind of like, oh, made the wrong choice there. Let's go back and start over again. Anyhow, it's good to be back on the program, Doug. God bless you. How you been?
Well, I've been great, and I've been keeping you in prayer and concerned about you, but what I've been hearing has been very positive, and your voice sounds strong and energetic, and I'm sure your exhaustion comes much quicker right now than it will as you get stronger, but I'm glad to hear you sounding so good.
Hey, Doug, last hour we mentioned a little bit about something I saw on television the other evening that it made me cringe. And I'm not a person that's going to scare easily, but this really made me wonder how devastating this man can be with his ideology. When Obama was being asked a question, he looked at his little 39-cent pen in his pocket, and he said, I have my pen, and I have my phone, and I'm going to do things the way I want them done. In other words, look out Congress, look out Constitution, here comes Obama. Did you get the same feeling?
Well, yeah, and I guess part of what surprises me, Zeb, is that people are surprised about this. He's done this before.
Yep.
And people haven't noticed, I guess, and he's been telling us all along that, indirectly at least, and somewhat directly, that he sees himself as the king, as the ruler. And the problem with a guy like this, you know, the old joke, you give him an inch, he thinks he's the ruler, is really true. Mm-hmm. This guy thinks that people are to basically do what he says and have unchecked power. And what is really scary to me is that he does this, and we have no reaction from the other two branches of our government that are supposed to be holding him accountable.
Doug, now you're going to probably say, now, Zab, don't be way off the right wing of the branch, right-winger. But, you know, when you think about this, and you look at his personality, and you look at that power-hungry look in his eyes, this president, this man, doesn't look like the kind of a person that's going to, at the end of his tenure of office, fade off into obscurity.
Well, no, in fact, we know he's not, because he's already said that he's going to stay in Washington after the end of his term. Other presidents have not done this. He claims he's doing it for his daughters so they can finish school there.
Yeah.
But the fact is he's doing it, I believe, and I can't put words in his mouth, but I believe he's doing it so he maintains control, because no matter who replaces him, if he does leave office, no matter who replaces him from either party as the new president, he will still be seen as a sitting president by the press. They look up to him too much, and so they will be going, no matter what happens, they'll be going to him constantly, and it will be his efforts to maintain everything he's put into power and to keep control of that. He wants nothing undone, so he will stay there to, I believe, to try and maintain control.
How devastating do you think over the last couple of days? I've had a chance to listen to a lot of political pundits from various news media outlets, whether it's CNN, whether it's even MSNBC, just to listen to the crackpots and the weirdos. But I really have drawn together a conclusion that this man has no sense of above or below or breadth and width. This man will do anything it takes to get his ideology and agenda passed. He will not let anything stand in his way.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. And, of course, we've been saying this now for a few years. This is what progressives are, and he is the epitome of a progressive. Ideology is everything. There is no right and wrong. Right and wrong is determined by what the goal is or what the end is. The old statement, people don't even think about what it means. The ends justify the means, is exactly what these people stand for. They believe it's okay, anything is okay as long as they achieve their goals. So being dishonest, deceptive, being, frankly, evil is okay if it ultimately gets them to their goal. Because they believe in their hearts their goal is what is best for America, best for the world, and so any means to get there is okay with them.
Yeah. You know, there's another subject, and by the way, I was going to ask you, I had a guest cancel at 9:30 this morning, so if you've got a few extra minutes, we might put you on a little longer this morning, if that's all right with you.
Not all the time you need today.
All right, appreciate it. I've got to ask you about the status of what's going on in Colorado right now with marijuana. Now, whether I'm an old stick in the mud that doesn't believe in the legalization of anything that is going to cause impairment, like marijuana, which I think is a gateway drug into other things, disregard all that. But what about the mess in the court system that the legalization of marijuana is causing? What about the mess with the colleges? What about the mess with athletics? What about the mess with whether or not they get picked up for impaired driving? And the applicable rules as to whether is this going to be the same as driving under the influence of alcohol? I mean, Doug, how are you discerning everything over there?
Well, it's a disaster and getting worse and going to continue to get worse as this whole thing unfolds. There's no doubt about it. Of course, I'm opposed to the legalization of marijuana, but, candidly, Zeb, I don't drink either, so I'm opposed to alcohol. So I'm very, very conservative in my views on these things. But what I will say is that trying to keep a relatively balanced mind, since we live in a pluralist society, and I understand other people do things that I don't do, this makes no sense to me. I agree with you entirely that this is a gateway drug. I agree entirely this opens the door to all sorts of problems. There is, I don't think we've even begun to think of all the problems we're going to run into. And I have to say I'm embarrassed to live in the state that is leading the charge in stupidity.
When you say leading the charge in stupidity, don't take all the credit for this, because you've got the state of Washington and you've got other states that want to have this thing basically follow suit as to what Colorado did. But, let's use a couple of analogies here and discuss these, because you're a sharp guy and I know you've already thought about them. I used the case here earlier this morning to where a football team comes in, let's say it's Eastern Washington, or it might be University of Idaho, it might be anybody, and plays Colorado State. And while they're there in a legal city and a legal forum to buy marijuana, they get some, and on the way back, some of the grams are found on the player, and his whole career is shot because of the legality of one state. Am I looking at this too harshly, or what are your thoughts?
No, I think you're looking at it very logically, and I would go so far as to say the schools could put in place rules that would say, we don't care where you are, you will not partake of this if you are a member of this team. It's just like in Colorado, even though marijuana use is legal, the state has the courts have actually already ruled and said that employers still have the right to fire somebody who does not pass a drug test because of it. So employers have the right to say you cannot use this stuff, even though it's legal to use in the state, which is, I am sure, at some point going to get challenged. And what will ultimately happen is acceptance of it will be forced upon society at every level, whether you want it or not. The only way you'll be able to fire somebody for it will be as if they are shown to be under the influence, and that's impairing their work. But I think that you give a very good example of a very simple thing that could come back and harm them, and then you're going to have all the issues of lawsuits going back and forth between people of different states and between the states themselves as to, well, ultimately who rules. This thing will ultimately end up at the Supreme Court before this is over, I believe.
Doug, what do you do about another situation and a scenario, and you very seldom ever hear anybody talk about this on the news media, whether it's on Fox or ABC, it doesn't make any difference. What do you do about pending court cases of pushers and dealers of this product? Are they going to be thrown out? Are they going to be reimbursed their money for attorney's fees? I mean, what's going to be happening?
Well, it's really, really interesting you raised that, Zeb, because just the other day I heard, and I hadn't even thought about that, and I guess my mind's been on other things, but the other issue is you have a number of people in jail awaiting trial or imprisoned currently for crimes that would now be legal. And the question is being raised, what would happen to them? The governor is not even going there. He won't even talk about it. The legislature won't even talk about it. So this is another issue. I think you're going to see a series of appeals and lawsuits and everything else to see how far they can get. But I would imagine what will happen is they'll end up going through and letting a lot of people out or dropping charges, using this new legislation or to say, well, we can't really hold them because it's legal now. And and I'm not defending that idea, but I will say this: it would certainly reduce the number of people we have in prison, because the vast majority of people in prison in this country, not just in Colorado, I believe, if I remember correctly, is due to drug-related offenses.
Yeah.
So if they could reduce those numbers, we have such overcrowded prisons anyway, it may take some financial burden off that system.
But I think you'll agree with me that when you start looking at the questions that could come up, whether it's somebody that was a businessman, owned a business, and was dealing pot on the side, and all of a sudden he lost his business, he lost his family, he lost his house, he lost his property, he lost everything because of the arrest. Are we going to be seeing recurrent lawsuits come back because of the fact that now it's a legal product, and they'll say, hey, while all this was underneath investigation and all of this was underneath the finalization of the court system, they made it legal, so now you got to reimburse me, and I'm suing you for the money?
Yeah, I think that probably, and I'm certainly no legal expert, I'm not an attorney, but I think that would probably get shut down or thrown out. They may even pass legislation to protect the state from that, because if something occurs before the law changes, I don't really think you could, and I think it's legitimate, you can't really hold the state accountable for upholding the previous law. So I think they would just say, gee, we're sorry, and move on. The problem is in our litigious society that you're still going to see civil suits, and how far those will go, who knows. The question is, who can they pin blame on? Or, as attorneys always do, they sue everybody in sight, and it's cheaper oftentimes just to settle than it is to fight it out in court. And so I think you will see some settlements and stuff come from things like that.
I think you'll agree with me, Doug. And, of course, now I don't live there in Colorado, but you do, and you know the complexities and the personalities involved in everything. But it just doesn't sound to me like too many smart people got together in a closed room and figured out a smart solution.
Well, no. Boy, I could go somewhere with that, Zeb. I'm not going to. Just the way you said it is excellent. But the fact is that, this state, a plan was made by the progressive Democrats to take over Colorado a number of years ago, about 10 years ago. And they implemented it. They call it the blueprint. There's actually been, or the Colorado model, and they're now using it in other states to take those states over. And it's been very effective. And part of that is this entire agenda that includes legalization of things like this. It's a mindset that is unhealthy, but unfortunately it has taken over. And we have a society, and I'm going to turn this discussion a little bit on you, to where I really think is the only hope to fix it, and I'm not sure we can. I do believe it may be too late, but I think the only hope to fix it is you start in the home, in the way you raise your children. My wife and I talked about this last night, and we both said, she grew up in a Christian home, I did not. I became a Christian later in life. But both of us were raised in homes where we never even would have considered trying marijuana or some drug. That just wasn't something, from the way we were raised, we were just taught this is not something that's good, you don't do this. And so it's not about what society does, it's about what we teach our children and the standards we set, and we've abandoned those in our society, and I think that's what we're fighting on the bigger scale. And the only way to fix that is to start as we raise our children and change the way they're raised.
No, I couldn't agree more. But has the sundial gone too far past normal to the point where we can't back up and say as parents, nope, not going to accept gay marriage, not going to accept the gay and lesbian lifestyle, well, it's against the biblical prophecy of our church, and we do not have to accept it, won't accept it, and nobody's going to cram it down our throats. I mean, have we reached that level to where we're going to be the bigots and the hate mongers no matter what the issue is?
Yeah, I think the answer actually is yes. And the only way you turn that back, you can't do it. You can't do it legislatively because people will always rise up against something they disagree with that way. You have to change people's hearts, and I think that starts as in the family, in how we raise our children, having them understand what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what is right, what is wrong, and having them understand that whether they agree or disagree, whether it's quote unquote fair or not, because fair has become the new byword. The fact is, are there ultimate standards of right and wrong, and what are they? And then the question comes down to, will I obey those or not? We choose, you and I, Zeb, and many, maybe most of your listeners choose to believe that the Bible is the ultimate authority because we believe it's the Word of God, and when God says something, that's it. It's clear. And we need to return to that throughout our society because, unfortunately, we are limited in number who are willing to take that stand. But that's where we have to return, and once again, I go back. It starts in the homes, which means that this is a long-term process, so things may get, even if we're successful, they may get a lot worse before they get better in our country.
Absolutely. I want to go back a little bit. I had a question in mind a few minutes ago, and then I had a brain bubble because I'm old and I forgot it. But in regards to the marijuana usage in the state of Colorado, are there any definitions, any specialized definitions as to you can't use it under certain conditions? I.e., let me ask you this. Have they put stipulations on airplane pilots? Have they said through United or Frontier or whatever that no one can use marijuana 24 hours before a flight? Have they made those stipulations, or does anything go?
Yeah, to my knowledge, they have not made those stipulations, but there are a number of issues being raised about that, even about just driving a car, and what the not just the penalties will be, but how they measure this, what is going on, and so I think these are all issues that are going to come to a head as we move forward and we see more and more problems. And what's scary is I read an article this morning, and just read it very briefly, and so I hope I didn't get it wrong, but I read that sources within the NFL say that half the players in the National Football League use marijuana. So you see, if it's that prevalent in our society and in such a major role model center of our society as the NFL, we really, really have an uphill battle, but I don't think anybody has thought about the ramifications of how this affects people. Now, I will say this, and I'm not defending use of it at all, but I don't recall ever hearing of cases where somebody's use of marijuana impaired their ability to drive or whatever. Now, my guess is part of that's because usually people who use it, from what I understand, either get tired and want to go to sleep or they just want to sit around and eat. I'm not sure. Yeah. But the point is that I don't think it has as identifiable what's the word I want, Zeb? It's not as identifiable as, say, alcohol use. When you use too much alcohol and you become impaired, your behavior becomes very obvious. It may not be as obvious with marijuana use for a police officer watching a car driving down the street.
Isn't it? Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot to mention this, and I made a note for myself, that Get Well card that your wife made that has a special place on my shelf, and I thank you so much for that. That was very nice. Tell her I said that, would you please? I
sure will. She'll appreciate that. She enjoyed doing it. It was something different for her, and she doesn't make a lot of them, as I've told you. Her visual impairment has slowed her down over the years, but she still likes to do it, and when she has a special occasion to do it for, she does, and she thought this was a real special occasion because she knows how important you are to me as a friend, and
well,
I'm glad
I appreciate
to do that for you.
Thank you very much. My next part of my question goes to the economy. I mean, Doug, we're living on a shoestring. We're living on a hand-to-mouth basis, almost $18 trillion in debt. And we've got situations right now that are putting us further in debt with the liberal nonsense that's being perpetrated in this country. One of those liberal nonsensical problems is, of course, marijuana in its legal status over in Colorado, your state. But we can't afford all this frivolity, and yet we keep opening up new doors on how to spend and waste money. This is lunacy to me.
Well, it is, and for a moment here, I'm going to lay a blame here at the Republicans' feet. It seems like when the Democrats always come up with some new thing to spend on, the Republicans can never just say no. They decide, well, we just have to find a different way to do it under our name and get credit for it, and so they head down the same path. So when the Democrats come down the road with nationalized health care in the form of Obamacare, instead of saying no, the Republicans say, well, we just need to have a different method of doing this.
Yeah.
Well, my response is, why? Why do you have to have a different method? What is wrong with saying no? And so we have a problem on both sides of the aisle. Nobody ever is willing to stop spending. And you mentioned almost $18 trillion in debt. Well, if we take the unfunded liabilities and add them to it, we're over $100 trillion in debt.
That's right.
And this is such a mountain that the discipline it's going to take America to get out of this hole is going to be generations long. It's going to be very difficult. This is not something we're going to fix with one election or with a couple of people changing in Congress. This is a major issue. And I will say this. I was on a talk show yesterday, and I heard a caller call in, and we were talking about another issue I just wrote a blog post about Obama putting forth regulations now that will take away our First Amendment rights. And a caller said, well, we just need to get those people in those groups who deal with this stuff to go and fight this. And my response is, it's good to get formal groups that are out there to fight these things, but we as individuals need to be fighting. We need to be ringing the phones off the hook in our representatives' offices, because they need to get back to the point where they fear the voter and will respect us and do what we want, not just do what they choose to do.
Amen. Amen. We have a caller with a question. Caller, I'm going to ask your indulgence for 30 seconds more. I've got to do a quick commercial, and then we're going to have an extension of time with Doug. Stand by. Don't go away, anybody. Don't forget, when you think about life insurance, when you think about health insurance, when you think about retirement planning or employee benefits, it's all there for you at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dean and Todd, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Please put it on your calendar of must do today. Give them a call. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, 436-4424. Also, do not forget our great friends over at Lease Furniture, Floors and More. They've got sofas, and they've got recliners, and they've got kind of the good, better, and best. What they're looking at right now is where you can get really low prices, and you can choose like good carpet, you can choose better carpet, and you can choose their best carpet. It's all there for your decision on what you want to do for your home and the beautification and comfort of your home. All of this and more at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today and tell them old Zeb said, I love my pillow. Okay? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Doug. Hey, the other day I heard that a poll saying that the American public was losing faith or belief in the Tea Party, and that they disapproved of what they do. And then I heard Ann Coulter say you should not spend any money trying to defeat John McCain or Lindsey Graham or any other rhino, but you should spend that money, trying to defeat vulnerable Democrats, senators, and congressmen, especially senators, in states where they might be able to be hit. I'll hang up. Thanks.
All right, go ahead. Doug, would you respond to that, please?
Yeah, and that's really, really a loaded topic, but it's an excellent topic. And I'll say a couple things. Ann certainly stands on the idea that we need to unify the party and quit fighting amongst ourselves. Other people like Mike Huckabee have come out and said that. Mike Huckabee actually said the other day that he thinks we should outlaw using the term rhino and try to work with each other. The flip side is Maricopa County, the largest county in Arizona, and two other counties have now censured John McCain and said they will not support him any longer until he returns to the values and principles of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. So good for them for doing that, is my view. I believe you take a stand and do what's right regardless of the cost, and so that means you have to stand up against some of this. However, all that said, there are certain parts of the country, certain places where it's going to be very hard to unseat somebody who's been there a long time. And my view is that conservatives, Tea Party or otherwise, should be pushing hard to get the right candidates into office if we can't, we don't want to destroy a Republican who may not be as conservative, may be more moderate. We may have to settle for them, but we make it a process where and it's going to take a few election cycles, but we let them know that we will replace you, even if it takes us time. So if you want to stay in office, you're going to have to do what the people want. Because contrary to what the poll that was cited may say, that Americans are tired of the Tea Party or whatever, I don't believe that's true at all. I think that the media wants us to believe that. But the fact is that I will tell you, Zeb, when I'm on shows around this country, the Tea Party is very alive and very well. We need people who will stand up like the people in the Tea Party will, and there are some politicians who do. A great example is former Congressman Alan West. If you haven't read it, there's a great piece out right now, and he has it on his website, where he stands up and he actually comes out and says he has a message for white Americans, and he's responding. You've probably heard about this whole issue of the Department of Justice coming out and trying to change the way we discipline students and base it on race, not based on who's doing something wrong. And Alan West has come out and said, I have a message to white people in America, and that is that Barack Obama and Eric Holder are two of the biggest racists in the country, and you need to quit listening to them. And, you know, this man has guts. He's willing to say what he thinks and speak the truth. These are the kind of people we need, and we need to keep encouraging. But this is an uphill battle because there's a battle both within the Republican Party and then within the country. So it's really like fighting a war on two fronts.
You know, Doug, one of the questions I've wanted to ask for quite some time, and I always forget to ask you or we run out of time. But here we're coming up on the midterm elections in 14, and I have put together, I'm not going to put it over the air right now this morning because of time, but I have put together my own checklist of values. My own checklist of values as to whether or not a candidate will get my vote. Don't you think that most people that are responsible American citizens that enjoy living in this greatest country in the world ever should develop their checklist of values before they go to the polls?
Oh, absolutely. And I believe that you can go to any community in this country. You and I could get in a car and go somewhere, fly somewhere, whatever, and if you sit down and you don't talk about political parties, nothing like that at all. You just talk about what's important to people, which will bring out their values. Most people, regardless of what party they claim, will have similar values. Most people want safe neighborhoods, they want good jobs, they want a solid economy, they want a future for their kids, et cetera, et cetera. So the issue is if we can get people talking about those things and then talk about, okay, how do we solve those problems? It's a different path, but it works better. So when I convince you that because whatever method has been used, and I keep politics out of this, we just talk about the methods that have been used to solve things, have not worked, and I show you methods that have worked somewhere, once I get you to understand what works, then it's just a matter of showing you which politicians represent those principles and those values that will employ the methods that work. We can win more people over. But we're too busy standing on each side of the chasm, throwing stones based on political party, and that's what's hurting us, I think, as a country, because most Americans really do agree. It's just a matter of the media and the politicians drive us apart.
I agree. Here in our own state of Idaho, we've got a situation to where we've got a congressman that's running for re-election again that has been there a long, long time. He and I have had words with each other. I'm not in his corner. And people have come up to me and said, no, wait a minute, Zeb. You got to look at it this way. Even though he has shortcomings here, you got to look at this, you got to look at that. No. I'm looking at the overall picture, and if they fall short of what I think they should do for the state of Idaho and what they should do for their constituents, I don't care if they've been in there since God made dirt. I'm going to vote them out.
Well, that's exactly it. In fact, I think staying in too long is bad, no matter who you are. It's not healthy. Great politicians, well, let's change that. Great leaders understand there's a limit to how long they need to serve. George Washington voluntarily chose to only serve 2 terms and then step out. Abraham Lincoln was nearing the end of his 2nd term. He knew it was almost over. Just before he was assassinated, he was prepared to go back to Illinois. He was going to restart his law practice and go back to serving his local community. They understood that you go and serve for a short time and leave. When you don't, you create what we have now, which is a ruling class in Washington, and they get so entrenched in their whole little world that they think of themselves as better than us. So they vote themselves advantages over us. They're not accountable the same way we are. Laws don't apply to them the way they do to us. This kind of stuff has to end, and getting people there only for a limited period of time is a way to keep them from digging in their heels and staying and taking control.
Doug, final thoughts here this morning, but if you were to categorize the top 5 of your Doug Johnson worries, with his pen and his phone in Obama's hands as to what he will try to railroad through with mandates and executive orders, what are the top 5? I've got my 5 right here. I'd like to hear what yours are.
Thanks for the forewarning to think about that. Well, I'll tell you, my number one worry, and this is not a plug for my blog, but my number one worry, if people go to horsesenseblog.com and read the post I wrote this week about his attack on the First Amendment, he's actually put forth regulations for the IRS that will take away our right to free speech. And if you work for an organization like a Tea Party organization or Planned Parenthood, or I mean not Planned Parenthood, Right to Life, right-wing organizations specifically are being attacked with these regulations, and they will not be allowed to speak out and use politicians' names, party names. They can't talk about voting or defeating them. People who work for them will not be allowed to volunteer to work for candidates. It's an unbelievable story that is coming down upon us. So I think that would be the number one fear, is that we're going to lose our First Amendment rights. And it is very close to happening. And as a quick sidelight, I would also say to people, there's a website called conventionofstates.com. People need to go to. This organization is trying to set up a convention that will actually work to get control of our government back to the people, and it's a really excellent program they're working on. People should look into it. The other 4, Zeb, I guess I look at it like if we lose our First Amendment, none of the rest are going to matter. Because everything in America, and this is where I disagree. Somebody just said, Ollie North said that, the Second Amendment is the most important, or something to that effect. I heard it paraphrased to me. I find that hard to believe he would say it, because without freedom of speech, which also means freedom of thought, we've lost everything. It doesn't matter if you can own a gun if you're not allowed to think the way you want to think. So the First Amendment is critical, and that is my greatest fear.
Mm-hmm. I looked at it not in the form of maybe the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. I looked at it in categorical form as to what I think is really going to happen with this man. I don't trust him with the EPA. I certainly don't trust him with Valerie Jarrett. I don't trust him with immigration reform. I don't trust him with the gun issue, and I don't trust him on private property rights. Those are issues that if he wants to be more of a quote-unquote dictator, he has to make mandates as soon as possible to get us more thwarted as far as our power is concerned for we the people.
Well, yeah, and he has, in some of those areas actually already done things that many of us, are not aware of or not up on. But he has done things using the EPA and such to take away a lot of those rights. And so, his assault on our rights is really historic. People talk about some other presidents who did some terrible things, such as Woodrow Wilson. Everything pales in comparison to what we're facing today. And probably what scares me the most, Zeb, is we talk about these things in terms of thinking of, well, what kind of nation do we want to have? We have to decide. We're past that point. We have actually already lost a lot of this. The question is there still time for us to turn around and fight and get it back? And this is what's most scary. A lot of it, I would say, really hinges heavily on this next election. And the question is, if we don't make significant inroads in the 2014 midterms, the chances of turning this country around become virtually nil.
Absolutely.
And so I can't emphasize to people enough, we are only months away from what may be the most critical election in our history. And it's really, really important we're involved and we're active to make sure that we can get control of Congress back in the hands where it needs to be.
Absolutely. My dear friend, Doug Johnson back in Colorado, always a pleasure to have you on the air. Thanks for the elongation of your time here this morning. And God's blessings to you and your wife. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. Continue to get well, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, sir. Thank you. Author of the book No Tomorrows and also the Horse Sense blog. Thank you, Doug Johnson, back in Colorado. We're going to have a weather update, and the weather is brought to you by Magic Valley Chalet at 1367th Street in Hayburn with 40% off on their Christmas candy, 20% off on the provolone cheese slices, 20% off on all the cheese spreads. Oh, and they can make up a special gift basket for you. Somebody's laid up in the hospital or whatever, give them a gift basket from the Magic Valley Chalet. Wow, that's a great gift. 1367th Street in Hayburn. Here right now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. It's South Central Idaho. It's nice and sunny. It's going to remain that way as far as the weather is concerned. Not a bad day, not a bad week in the seas. A lot of sun, very little clouds all the way through Monday of next week for temperatures in the upper 40s for the daytime highs. And right around the mid to upper 30s for the overnight lows. So it looks like a pretty good winter going into the weekend. There you go. Enjoy the weather. The only weather we got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by the Magic Valley Chalet, 1367th Street in Hayburn. Appreciate the weather. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, are you right there by your telephone or your microphone?
I am.
I have a very special favor to ask of you.
What is that?
I am scheduled to talk to Representative and Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And I am afraid I'm going to have you do it.
Okay.
I have a leg that all of a sudden starts to look like a redwood tree, and it's really swollen up, and I'm not doing too much to curb it this morning. We've tried ice all morning long. It's not doing any good.
Okay.
I hope you're not offended by that.
I am definitely not offended by that. If you could have Deanne just write down some quick questions that you want me to ask, I would be more than happy to fill that in for you.
I'll be more than happy to take care of that, and we'll have them sent over. Calls are welcome, 436-2244-1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. They had told me at Salt Lake that it's going to be a little tough to sit and do a 3-hour program on that leg because of the swelling. Well, they were right. And so therefore we're going to probably ride off on our horse at 10 o'clock and let Gina handle the ball with Scott Bedke, and she's very, very capable. Let's see, what else have we got here? You want a list of questions for her? I'll get that written up if you want. For Gina.
That would be wonderful if you guys could do that for me.
Hey, I'll tell you what we'll do.
Yep.
I'll do it at exactly 10 o'clock and zip it over real quick. That way. I was going to ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you a believer, and I'm not trying to basically put you on the spot, I just want to find out, do you believe in evolution or creationism?
I believe in evolution.
You do?
I do.
Then let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Why hasn't it stopped?
Evolution is continually ongoing.
Oh, really?
Never stops.
Oh, really?
This is just my own personal belief. People are always evolving. Species are always evolving. We never stay the same. We change with our environment. It's the way that nature works.
What has changed with human beings?
A lot.
What has changed with monkeys?
Actually, I think monkeys have actually, progressed throughout the years. I haven't done a study on monkeys.
What has changed? What has changed with horses and pigs and ducks and chickens?
Good question. I don't know.
So, if you believe in evolution, shouldn't there be an evolutionary change in their makeup?
There should be, but considering that the human species is constantly injecting things into them, why would they?
All right. But if you want to go that way then, and you believe in evolution, then why are all the different things, if they came from one source, how come and how did they branch into various sources, whether it be plant, whether it be animal, whether it be human being?
I think that has to do with the environment that they're in. Are you testing my scientific knowledge? Because I'm not a scientist.
Well, I am not at all a believer in evolution, because when or where or how or who does it stop or does it begin? That's the point that most evolutionists can't answer is, are you saying then that all of a sudden your neighbor has 6 toes and 1 extra thumb? Oh, well, he's evolving. Well, you don't know of anybody like that today, do you?
No, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
I don't. I have a cat that has 6 toes. but
And
not
I had some relatives that really, they were so weird that you'd never know anyway. So, but anyhow, my point is,
Yes.
I don't believe that we can evolve from an amoebic cell and have all these different diversified atmospheres from a cell that was a one cell in the beginning anyway.
I see your point there. Like I said, I'm really not a scientist. I do respect that belief, though, because if you truly believe what the Bible says, then we all, sprang from the Lord and His graciousness.
But isn't it a lot easier to believe in a creationist atmosphere that God created the earth, He created the heavens, He created the stars, He created the waters, the oceans, the fish, and gave man dominion over all those? I can understand that and accept that far more than I can a Big Bang evolutionary one simple amoebic cell theory where everything supposedly was a derivative, but where did it stop and how come others continued and others failed?
I can't answer that. I think that it is easier, as you put it, it is easier to believe in the creationist theory because...
No, it's not easier. Not easier. I call it faith. I call it faith. Yeah.
Honestly, it's without me doing a whole bunch of research, because like I said, I'm not a scientist. I do believe in the evolutionary theory, though, because, our Earth has been around for millions of years.
Whoa, stop. How do you know and how can you ascertain God's timetable and time reference on the creation of the earth as compared to the carbon samples and everything else? Are you going to tell me that you would buy a man's opinion about something over perhaps what your beliefs in God are?
I would weigh the two together equally, and then... I'm kind of a very fact-based person. I do have faith, so don't get me wrong on that one. I do have faith, but I'm a very fact-based person, and so having faith is not based in fact. It's having faith. It's having hope and desire and wishes and wants. It's not fact.
Well, I just have a hard time in assuming and accepting the fact, if you believe in evolution in its entirety, that my Aunt Millie from back in the 50s and 60s, her genetics and her chromosomes and everything else are going to turn into Aunt Miss Chimpanzee 2096 in the future. I just can't buy into that because there's a beginning and an ending of species and there's a continuation of species that has nothing to do with the theory of evolution.
Makes sense. I suppose if you really want to get it hot and heavy into this topic, I'm going to have to do some research on that.
I would think so.
Yes.
Okay. No, I saw an article in USA Today.
Okay.
And what really rocks my boat is when evolutionary people, evolutionists, they always scoff at people of faith like myself. And this one person said, the only people who don't believe in evolution are those who don't understand it. Well, to this person, I probably understand it more than you do. I probably have done more study on it. But why is it in any type of a topic, liberalism always says, look at global warming. There's a good example. Well, you just don't understand it because you're not smart enough.
Yeah, that is a great point because for those who want to get their point across, they're always quick to point the finger and saying, well, you don't know. Well, you don't know. Well, no, maybe I don't know, but I'm definitely willing to put in the time to do the research, so I do know.
Absolutely. And, boy, you didn't hear much about and from our dear friend Al Gore over the last 2 months, did you?
No, huh? Where did he drop off the face of the planet?
Which would have been a blessing.
I think it was actually on Facebook a while back. I saw a picture of Al Gore frozen to death.
I saw that too.
Did you see that too?
Yes, I did.
I know that that's not fact, but I thought that the Facebook post was actually rather funny because, the polar vortex is just kind of proving that there is no global warming going on.
One of the funniest things that I saw, and fortunately nobody was hurt, nobody was injured, was when the global warming alarmists group got together and had that icebreaker go to Antarctica and get caught in the ice. And then they sent another icebreaker to rescue the first icebreaker. And that second icebreaker gets caught in the ice.
I know. And, global warming, but Antarctica, and apparently this is summertime in Antarctica, and the ice is growing. It's not receding. Yeah. It's not getting warmer, but the ice is growing.
I just love bringing up little stories like this.
Yeah.
Let's see, what have I got to do here? I've got to tell everybody about what's going on at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my goodness, stop in and check out all the snow machines. Stop in and check out all the ATVs. Check out all the accessories. They've got them all for you. All you have to do is just go on in and see Nick and the rest of the crew at Let's Ride. You stop in and see them today, and they've got a parts and service department that is absolutely fantabulous. The best, where the fun is sold, Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle, and I'd like to hear from you if you could. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, don't forget our friends at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, my. Today is Wednesday, and they've got chicken paprikas. Hope I said that right. With steamed rice, veggies, soup, or salad. It is going to be good, always is. And all you have to do is stop in there and enjoy the specials and all the menu. They've got a delicious menu at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. All right, come on, somebody. Give me a call real fast. Love to hear from you. And what I'm going to do is take some of the commercials that Gina would not have to be responsible for this next hour, and we're going to take care of them for her, as a matter of fact. And that'll lead me up to my next little series here that we want to say thank you very much to a couple of businesses that are the sponsor of School Days in Cassia County. Our thanks go out to A Child's World at 1308 Oberlin in Burley. Hold on, caller. I'll be right there, I promise. And also Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. My goodness sakes, if a baby's in your family's future, come on in and choose your crib, your changer, your dresser, and everything you need at A Child's World. And stock up for next year with all the coats and the dresses on sale. They've got it all for you right there at A Child's World in Burley. And don't forget, too, Ambulatory Surgery Center for over 14 years. Folks in the Magic Valley have come to the Ambulatory Surgery Center on Highland Drive in Burley for outstanding personal medical care and have saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars for procedures like cataract and eye surgery, colonoscopies, carpal tunnel, hand surgery, many, many more. Please remember these wonderful folks. Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley, and A Child's World, 1308 Oberlin in Burley. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Jim, I have a question for you. Do you believe that we can pray for favorable weather?
Absolutely.
So, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but when you have hurricanes, tornadoes, that loss of life, loss of property, and just unbelievable destruction, what is your opinion on how come that occurs? You see, if we can pray for weather, then can we pray to stop hurricanes and tornadoes from coming?
Yeah, but don't you believe that God put everything on a cyclical basis as far as weather patterns and the joining of the different weather patterns, etc.? And doesn't the Bible say on many, many occasions, come to me, ask me, and with faith I will answer and give you what you need?
Well, my point is I like to ski up at Soldier Mountain, and they haven't even opened because there's been no snow, and even up at Pomerelle, there's not, it's just barely enough, like one of the patrolmen said to me. And then, we need the water because the snow, so we can have snowpack and, just for everything we need. And right up here in the Sawtooth and up Fairfield and Sun Valley, and you know what I mean, we're really shy. And, you say, well, what can we do? Can we pray? And I have been, and I always am in a dilemma about,
the weather and praying for it, and that was just the thoughts I had. But you know, they jokingly talk about the predominant religion around here praying for weather, and then it'd tell them, "Hey, would you quit praying for weather because we're getting flooded here?" So I don't know, you know, how you feel, but it was just a thought. But I think we all should pray, I suppose, if you're a believing man.
I think if you sit down and just honestly accept the answer to prayer, you know, there was a song by Garth Brooks, you know, about unanswered prayers. Maybe the answer is no answer, and I just think you have to have faith, and that's how I live my life. I know there's a God. I know there was a Jesus Christ that walked the face of the earth as his son, and you have to have faith. If you don't have faith, really, what do you have?
Well, yeah, I'm in all the way, because, you know, there's no fooling God, and if you believe in God, he knows everything you've thought, said, and done. You know, then your heart is totally open, and he knows that, you know, the intent of your heart. If your intent is not pure, then you're fooling nobody, and even your fellow man sense it. And, you know, you've got to get right with that before anything will work.
Absolutely. Randy, I got to run to the news, but have faith, my friend. Have faith. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. God's blessings to everybody, and especially to this lovely lady on the other end of the line, Gina Jameson. And, Gina, your questions and thoughts are on the way, so you'll have those in just a few moments. Thank you for filling in. That's above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
God bless you. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow, 10:06. Have a great day, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch.